Police arrest kidnap suspect who may be linked to boy's death. Bellevue, an 18-year-old has been arrested and charged with kidnapping, sexual assault, and making terroristic threats as a result of information uncovered during the investigation of the death of 13-year-old Danny Joe Eberle of Bellevue, officials said Friday. The charges against Michael Rice are not related to the death of the newspaper carrier. Deputy County Attorney Steve Sturrock said, but he added, Michael Rice has not been ruled out as a suspect in the Eberle case. Sturrock said the charges were filed against Rice in connection with two incidents, one on September 9 and another last spring. Sturrock refused to name victims of the incidents, but he said they were teenagers. Sturrock listed these charges against Rice as a result of the September 9 incident: kidnapping, third-degree sexual assault, making terroristic threats, saying spring 1983, as specific as I can get on the date. Sturrock listed these charges in connection with the other incident, kidnapping. Sturrock would not give details about how the information relating to the charges against Rice came to light during the probe of the Eberle death. Also Friday, a 14-year-old Omaha boy, who told authorities he was abducted by a man Thursday evening as he was completing his World Herald newspaper route and escaped more than 2 hours later, changed his story. Initially, the boy said a man forced him into a car about 5:30 p.m. at 44th and Sprague Streets and that he broke free about 8:15 p.m. across town, near 24th Street and Woolworth Avenue. But shortly after midnight, he told police that rather than being abducted by a man answering the description of a man sought in tow other alleged abduction attempts this week, he was forced to go along with two men he had seen before. He told police that the men wanted him to vandalize a house and he refused. They drove around for several hours and ended up at Columbus Park, 24th Street and Woolworth Avenue. He told police the men beat him in an effort to get him to go along with them, but he was able to break free.
Gwatney resents what he calls his fall guy image. Alliance, self-proclaimed hobo William Freight Train Gwatney Jr. says he has become a fall guy. And he doesn't like all the media publicity he says indicates he may be a murderer. The 61-year-old Gwatney said he agreed to a rare interview with the Alliance Times-Herald because he wants to clear up some of the bad impressions and suspicion he thinks people harbor against him. He asserted his innocence in the September murder of Danny Joe Eberle of Bellevue, a case in which FBI investigators questioned him, then decided he wasn't a viable suspect. I've never been there, Gwatney said of Bellevue. No one has been charged yet with the 13-year-old boy's murder and officials say leads are drying up in the case. Gwatney also maintained his innocence of other crimes of which he has been accused. They wanted a fall guy and I was the patsy. They've been trying that for 3, 4, 5 years trying to hang things on me, said Gwatney, who has spent time in mental institutions. I don't like all the publicity saying I'm a murderer. I don't like being accused of something I haven't done. He continued, the publicity doesn't scare me. I just don't like being hassled by someone who says I've done something wrong when I haven't. I think they should get out there and try to catch the real killer and not try to hang someone who is not guilty. Gwatney spent nearly 2.5 years in Lincoln Regional Center in connection with the 1975 slayings of the two Lincoln boys. The charges were dropped in 1981 after he was found incompetent to stand trial. Gwatney also had been charged in the 1979 murder of a 13-year-old Topeka, Kansas boy, but the charge was dropped when authorities learned Gwatney was in Illinois at the time of the killing. I'm honest, do work for people. I don't beg for anything. I just work, he said. Dressed in Box Butte County Jail-issued dark blue coveralls, Gwatney was interviewed in the library of the Regional Law Enforcement Center. Gwatney, a certified disabled veteran of World War II, was willing to discuss any aspect of his life as a drifter. His black hair, combed back, framed his weathered face and toothless mouth. Loose coveralls hung from his tall, lanky frame. He said initially he was hesitant to talk with the media, fearing his story would add to the abundance of unwelcome publicity from accusations, questionings, and hassles he has suffered in connection with several murders which he insists he didn't commit. But Gwatney later decided he wanted people to know his feelings. Gwatney was arrested in Alliance Monday for trespassing in the Burlington Northern Rail Yard after the FBI and other law enforcement agencies requested he be found and detained for questioning in connection with the Eberle case. He has been contacted by Alliance police earlier that day and released when a computer check revealed no outstanding warrants against him.
Bellevue man charged with 2 felonies. Bellevue. A 40-year-old Bellevue man who has been questioned in the Danny Joe Eberle homicide has been charged with felonies in connection with 2 unrelated crimes, authorities said Thursday. William Fife has been charged with 2 counts of first-degree sexual assault. He is the second person among those questioned in the Eberle case to be charged with other crimes. Fife was free Thursday after posting 10% of $75,000 bail. Deputy Sarpy County Attorney Stephen Sturrock said the charges stem from complaints of 2 14-year-old boys regarding events in September at Fife's home. Sarpy County Sheriff Pat Thomas said Fife was questioned about the Eberle case before his release. He said the incidents were discovered by officers in the investigation of the death of Eberle, an Omaha World Herald carrier.
FBI to question Gwatney about Eberle. Bellevue Police Chief Warren Robinson said Tuesday an FBI agent will question William Freight Train Gwatney about the slaying of Bellevue newspaper carrier Danny Joe Eberle, but he is certainly not a prime suspect in the Nebraska homicide. Gwatney, 61, a drifter who was suspect in the slayings of 3 other boys and had been sought for questioning in the recent stabbing death of the 13-year-old Eberle, was arrested Monday in Alliance for trespassing. Robinson said authorities have no reason to believe he was near Bellevue at the time of Eberle's death. We have nothing going on him now because we've pretty well established that he was someplace else at the time. Robinson said, but he's been floating around the Midwest, which makes him just one of many people we naturally want to talk to. Alliance Police Sergeant Lauren Guthrie said Burlington Northern security agents detained Gwatney in the rail yard Monday afternoon. Box Butte County Attorney Ken Payne said Tuesday morning that no charges had been filed against Gwatney. Guthrie said Gwatney, who has been missing since walking out of a Topeka, Kansas hospital more than a month ago, rode into Alliance on a train from Lincoln. The sergeant said Gwatney was jailed for the misdemeanor because the alleged offense occurred on private property. Gwatney spent nearly 2.5 years in the Lincoln Regional Center in connection with the 1975 slayings of the 2 Lincoln boys. The charges were dropped in 1981 after Gwatney was found incompetent to stand trial. Gwatney also had been charged with the 1979 murder of a 12-year-old Topeka boy, but the charge was dropped when law authorities learned Gwatney was in Illinois at the time of the killing. Tips D. Windling in investigation of Eberle death. Omaha. The number of tips received in the investigation into the death of Omaha World Herald newspaper carrier Danny Joe Eberle of Bellevue has begun to dwindle, Sarpy County Sheriff Pat Thomas said Monday. Detectives still have many leads to check, but we're not getting as much over the telephone now. Thomas said, Danny, 13, was last seen alive when he picked up his newspapers early the morning of September 18. His body was found near Offut Base Lake 3 days later. He had been stabbed repeatedly.
Bellevue man to be questioned in slaying. An 18-year-old Bellevue man released on bail earlier this month in the false imprisonment case was taken into custody Friday, and will be questioned in connection with the slaying of Danny Joe Eberle, according to investigators. Chief Sarpy County Deputy Attorney Michael Wellman said Michael A. Rice, who will be 19 Tuesday, was charged Friday with 7 counts, 5 of them felonies, relating to incidents in the spring of 1982 and September 9, 1983. Sarpy County Sheriff Pat Thomas said Rice was arrested shortly before 3 p.m. Friday at home at 1208 Hillcrest Drive. Bel Air residence. The 13-year-old Eberle, son of Mr. and Mrs. Leonard Eberle, lived at 119 Valley View Drive. Rice's residence and the Eberles both are in the Bel Air section, a residential area just west of the downtown Bellevue business district. The young Eberle disappeared from his newspaper route in the downtown area of Bellevue Sunday. He was found dead of multiple stab wounds Wednesday near a little-used road south of the city. Rice, who Thomas said is unemployed, was taken to Sarpy County Court for arraignment Friday afternoon on 2 counts of kidnapping, 2 felony counts of making terroristic threats, 1 felony count of using a knife in a felony, and 2 misdemeanor counts of third-degree sexual assault. All of those charges arise out of incidents that are unconnected with the Eberle case. Held without bond. County Judge Albert Walsh ordered Rice held without bond until Monday on the request of both prosecutors and his appointed attorney, Tom Garvey. Rice is white, about 5'7" and 130 pounds, with closely cut dark hair. Thomas and Wellman said Rice was picked up as the 55-member investigative team of federal, state and local law enforcement officers working on the Eberle case reviewed recent sex crimes involving males in the area. Another incident. Officials had known of an arrest in the September 9 case, and after the Eberle investigation began, police received a report of another incident allegedly involving Rice that dated back to the spring of 1982. Deputy County Attorney Steve Sturrock said Rice is accused of taking a 15-year-old boy to the 16th and Bluff Streets area, near Nebraska Public Power District plant along the Missouri River, where the September 9 incident allegedly occurred. Deputies arrested Rice the same day in the case, Sturrock said. Rice was charged with felony illegal imprisonment at the time and was released after posting 10% of $5,000 bail. Friday, officials dropped the illegal imprisonment charge when the other 3 charges were filed in connection with the incident: kidnapping, third-degree sexual assault, and making terroristic threats. The incident in the spring of 1982 that led to the other 4 charges filed Friday occurred in Raya's home, Sturkey said. Wellman said he didn't know the age of the alleged victim. No details. In neither of the incidents was the alleged victim injured, authorities said. The investigators again Friday declined to give details of the Eberle slaying. Thomas said he has not yet received laboratory results. The boy's boy was found, partly clad, about 90 years east of the intersection of Harlan Lewis and La Platte Drives by a 130-member search party Wednesday. Officials have said the multiple stab wounds caused the death but haven't commented on reports the boy was bound and his mouth was taped shut. Thomas wouldn't comment on any evidence officers found when they arrested Rice.
Youth murders keep town on edge. Bellevue, when 13-year-old Danny Joe Eberle was found stabbed to death a few days after he disappeared with delivering newspapers, residents of this Omaha suburb treated the savage slaying like an isolated incident, something that stains a community only once. But when 3 months later another young boy, shy Christopher Walden, disappeared while on his way to school, a mantle of fear settled over the area. His body was found 3 days later, his death chillingly similar to the Eberle killing. "There's a crazy man out there killing our children," said a woman who lives near where Christopher's body was found. She asked that her name not be used because there's no telling what that type of deranged person might do. Since Christopher's body was found December 5, the woman said she has been gripped by a terror more intense than any fear she has felt before. "I'm frightened for my 3-year-old. I'm frightened for my 17-year-old and I'm frightened for myself," she said. "How do you defend yourself against a crazy man who is armed?" The woman said she won't let her 17-year-old boy go places alone. "The fear just doesn't subside. I still have trouble going to sleep at night because of it. I don't feel safe in my home and I don't think I will until they've got that guy." Danny Joe disappeared on September 18 while delivering newspapers on his Sunday morning route. His body was found, stabbed several times, 3 days later, near Bellevue, a community of 23,000 just south of Omaha. Christopher, 12, disappeared December 2 while walking to his elementary school near Papillion, just west of Bellevue. His body was found 3 days later in a snow-covered grove of trees. He, too, had been stabbed several times. The bodies of the 2 boys who had lived within 3 miles of each other were found about 8 miles apart. Investigators working on the cases have declined to comment on the condition of the bodies, but Sarpy County Sheriff Pat Thomas said after the Walden youth's body was found that he had never witnessed anything similar to this. Across the street from the Bellevue police station, young teenagers who were classmates of the Eberle boy continue classes as usual at Mission Junior High School. But counselors say many of the youths are struggling to make sense of the tragedies thrust into their lives. The second murder may have touched the children more deeply, even though they didn't attend classes with the Walden boy, said 8th grade counselor Claudia Winkler. "When Danny died, they were sad," she explained. "They missed him and they hurt inside because he was gone. But they consoled themselves with the idea that it was an isolated thing. Now they think it could happen again. And many of them are thinking, next time it could be me." Each student has different questions and concerns that must be handled individually, said Mary Yoakum, 7th grade counselor. "I'm just trying to let the children share their thoughts with me. It's really difficult because no matter how we try, we can't give them an explanation," she said. "I guess the most important thing is to tell them we're scared too. We hurt too. We need to share what we can." One student told her that when she went to bed the night after Christopher's body was found, she covered herself with stuffed animals because she thought a murderer might not be able to find her that way, she said. Then she got worried about her little brother and went and covered him up. The Reverend Richard Swolick of St. Mary's Church in Bellevue said people in the community are just trying to hold together. One man who declined to identify himself said nothing will be the same in the community until the killer is in custody. "He just better hope I don't catch him, that's all I've got to say," he said.
Eberle, Danny Joe, age 13 years. 119 Valley View Drive, Bellevue. September 18, 1893. Survived by parents Leonard and Judy Eberle, sisteress, Maria and Chantel, brothers, Leonard II and Steve, all Bellevue. Grandparents Barbara Eberle, Hague, North Dakota, Kelly and Mabel Tassler, Pierpont, South Dakota, aunts, uncles. Wake service Friday 7:30 p.m. Mortuary. Funeral service Saturday, September 24, St. Mary's Church, 2302 Crawford, Bellevue, at 10 a.m. Interment Bellevue Cemetery, Bellevue. Campbell Mortuary 807 Mission Street, 291 to 400. Team searching for carrier find body near Offut Lake, Bellevue. Searchers coming in area southeast of Bellevue in connection with the disappearance of a 13-year-old boy reported about 11:10 a.m. Wednesday they had found an unidentified body. Officials declined to immediately say whether the search, which began about 10 a.m. from Offut Air Force Base Lake, would be continued. But witnesses at the scene said it appeared the search had been called off. Sarpy County Sheriff Pat Thomas said the body was that of a young boy. The body was found in a flat field overgrown with marsh grass and weeds about 100 yards southeast the intersection of Harlan Lewis and Lake Park Roads. The spot was little more than 2 miles from the Offut Lake where the search began Wednesday morning. The lake is no more than 4 minutes by car from the site where Danny Joe Eberle apparently disappeared. The search team that reportedly found the body was headed by FBI agents and included law enforcement officers from a number of other agencies. The body was discovered less than an hour after some 130 representatives of 22 agencies headed out from the base lake in search of anything relating to Eberle's disappearance. The son of Mr. and Mrs. Leonard Eberle of Bellevue has been missing since early Sunday. An Omaha World Herald newspaper carrier, he was last seen when he picked up his papers for delivery about 5:30 a.m. Sunday. 3 hours later, after a customer complained that he hadn't received his paper, a World Herald advisor found Danny's bike and 67 undelivered papers in front of a house at the start of his route. The discovery of the body Wednesday morning came during what was described by officials as the biggest search in Sarpy County history. Investigators had divided a 9.5 square mile area along the Missouri River into 10 sections and separated searchers into 10 teams to carefully scour each area. Included among the searchers were representatives from 5 federal agencies: the FBI, Air Force, Army, Navy, and Office of Special Investigation. Search parties were told to look for anything unusual and were given descriptions of the clothing Denny was wearing when he disappeared. The terrain involved in the search included open fields, ravines, forests, and thick underbrush. It stretched from about Fontanelli Forest, south to the Platte River and west from the Missouri River to about Hancock Street in Bellevue. Searchers used a boat, a helicopter, and a light plane. Lieutenant Gerard Groves of the Sioux City, Iowa Police Department assisted as a technical advisor. Groves said the Eberle search was slightly different from the one he directed earlier this year for 17-year-old Linda Bennett, a Sioux City girl who disappeared on March 4. Her body was found in the Little Sioux River in April. In that case, Groves said searchers thought the girl might have injured herself while walking along bluffs bordering the river and had been unable to summon help. Early Wednesday morning, the Nebraska State Patrol established a command post with its radio unit at the base lake in order to monitor progress of each of the 10 search teams. Meanwhile, the possibility of what might have been an abduction attempt on another newspaper carrier was reported in the Meadows housing subdivision in northwest Sarpy County. Thomas said his office is following every lead on the reported abduction attempt of an 11-year-old girl who was delivering copies of the Omaha World Herald about 4:45 p.m. Tuesday along Rose Lane near 143rd Street. She told officers a man in a smaller, newer model red hatchback car pulled up alongside her and motioned for her to come to his car. She said she refused and the man motioned again. At that point, the girl said she dropped the bicycle she was pushing and ran to a nearby house, where the resident called police.
Boy may have been slain 2 days after abduction. Since leaving school Friday morning, witnesses said they saw a boy resembling him in an encounter with a young man along the route the boy usually took to Pawnee School. Hunters around the grove along Cornhusker Road near Giles Road where the Walden boy's body was found also reportedly saw no body Saturday or early Sunday. Charles Becker, who lives and arms the intersection of the two roads, said hunters were in the area during the day Sunday. The hollow along West Papillion Creek is a popular spot for hunters and target shooters, he said. Becky said he frequently sees cars along the road but didn't recall seeing one parked there for a length of time Sunday night or Monday. FBI agent Chuck Wiley said the investigators believe a car was parked there for at least 15 to 20 minutes and they have been seeking any witnesses. The Walden boy's body was found by two hunters, about 75 yards east of the road. He apparently had walked into the grove with his slayer. Both the Walden and Eberle boys died of multiple stab wounds. The similarity in the two cases has caused lawmen to think the slayings were the work of the same person. But because of evidence at the Eberle scene, officers have said he probably was killed elsewhere and his body left near the little-used road south of Bellevue. They have been seeking a second crime scene in that case according to the FBI. The Sarpy County Sheriff's Office, Bellevue Police and the FBI established a hotline and a communication center in the Bellevue Police Station after the finding of the Walden boy. At last count, more than 1,000 calls had been received during what is considered one of the most intense investigations in the history of the metropolitan area. The FBI's Wiley would not comment on reports that some people considered possible witnesses were placed under hypnosis for their statements. Hypnosis was used early in the Eberle case. Reportedly, Walden witnesses were flown to Texas for hypnosis and interview.
Boy killed 2 days after abduction. Evidence found of molestation, chest, designs. Christopher Paul Walden probably was killed late Sunday night in the grove of wild plum trees, where investigators say his slayer took him, more than 2 days after his apparent abduction, sources close to the investigation said Friday. Although the official autopsy has not been released, preliminary medical reports on the examination of the 12-year-old boy's body reported support that time of death. There was evidence of sexual molestation, the sources said. The time of death also is supported by the fact that hunters in the area Saturday and during the day Sunday did not see a body. The boy's body was found by hunters Monday. The autopsy also showed wounds that appeared to form a design of some kind on the chest, where officers said a number of stab wounds were. Nothing missing. Near the body, according to sources, were the boy's school backpack, apparently with nothing missing, and coat. They were neatly stacked. Officers Friday would not confirm or deny details of the autopsy or the crime scene. However, the medical evidence gathered so far also reportedly supports lawmen's earlier belief that unlike Danny Joe Eberle, young Walden was killed when his body was found. Authorities say they believe the same person killed Walden, 12, son of Lieutenant Col and Mrs. Stephen Walden, 4554 Holly Street, and Eberle, a 13-year-old Bellevue newspaper carrier. The Eberle boy's body was found south of Bellevue September 21 after the body had been missing 3 days. Young, Walden, had been missing. Suspect sketch has more detail. Lawmen Thursday night released a color composite sketch of a man who may have abducted and killed Christopher Paul Walden. Investigators have said they believe one person abducted and killed Walden, 12, and Danny Joe Eberle, 13, both died of multiple stab wounds. A black and white sketch of the suspect was drawn after witnesses told police December 2 of an encounter between a man and a boy resembling Walden. The first composite was released Monday night after Walden's body was found. The new sketch shows more detail. Sarpy County Sheriff Pat Thomas declined to confirm reports that hypnosis was used on the witnesses to produce the added details. The suspect is described as an olive-skinned man 18 to 15 years old. 5'8" to 5'10", about 160 pounds, was wearing a dark stocking cap, wool plaid jacket and gloves. Eberle, a Bellevue newspaper carrier, was last seen September 18. His body was found September 21. Walden was last seen starting to school about 8:20 a.m. December 2. His body was found in a grove of trees northwest of Papillion.
FBI suspects Eberle taken out of state before death. The FBI said Thursday that Danny Joe Eberle, the Bellevue newspaper carrier who was found stabbed to death Wednesday, may have been taken into another state before he apparently was abducted. "We're keeping agents on the case only because we're not satisfied there was no interstate transportation," said Herb Hawkins, special agent in charge of the FBI for Nebraska and Iowa. "That kind of suspicion is always prevalent in this kind of kidnapping. We'll keep at least 15 agents on the case until I'm satisfied the boy wasn't taken out of state." Hawkins said it was possible that Eberle was taken into Iowa before he was slain. The boy's body was found Wednesday near a little-used road south of Bellevue. Sarpy County Sheriff Pat Thomas said that Eberle apparently died of multiple stab wounds. Eberle had been missing since Sunday morning. A source close to the investigation said articles of clothing belonging to Eberle, 13, were found at the scene. The source, who asked his name not be used, would not say whether the body was clad. The source said the body was not decomposed badly. An autopsy Wednesday gave officials positive identification and determined the cause of death. Thomas said several items found at the scene have been sent to FBI's Washington, D.C. laboratories. Included in the evidence are 2 empty beer bottles. In weeds, searchers reported about 10:30 a.m. Wednesday that they had found the body of a young white male. Wahoo Police Chief John Coulterman, searching with 4 other lawmen, said he was the first to spot the body in the weeds. The body was found in a flat field overgrown with marsh grass and weeds about 100 yards southeast of the intersection of Harlan Lewis and Iska Park roads. It was no more than 20 feet south of the Iska Park roadway. The field is part of the Dale Iska Farm, according to Charles Anderson, a resident of the unincorporated Missouri River Bank community of Iska Park. The spot is little more than 2 miles from Offut Air Force Base Lake, where the search by 130 representatives from 22 agencies began. The lake is no more than 4 minutes by car from where Eberle disappeared Sunday morning. Anderson said Iska Park Road very likely would be deserted on a Sunday morning. Only some city officials, investigators, and the Reverend Ralph Lammers of St. Mary Catholic Church of Bellevue have visited with the Eberles at their home. The pastor said the family took the news of the discovery of a body as well as can be expected. I think they kind of knew the body was Danny. Officials described the search as the biggest in Sarpy County history. Investigators had divided the 9.5 square mile area along the Missouri River into 10 sections and separated searchers into 10 teams to scour each area. Attempt probed. Included among the searchers were representatives from 5 federal agencies: the FBI, Air Force, Army, Navy, and Office of Special Investigation. Meanwhile, Thomas said his office is following every lead in an alleged abduction attempt of an 11-year-old girl delivering copies of the Omaha World-Herald about 4:45 p.m. Tuesday. She told officers a man in a small late-model red hatchback pulled up alongside her and motioned for her to come to his car. Thomas said the girl described the man as white, about 30 to 35, with reddish-brown straight hair and a mustache. The girl said she did not recognize him. Thomas said there was no evidence yet connecting Danny Eberle's abduction with the incident involving the girl. FBI assisting in hunt for missing paperboy. No concrete leads had developed Monday morning into the disappearance in Bellevue of a 13-year-old World-Herald newspaper carrier who was last seen about 5:30 a.m. Sunday when he picked up his newspapers for delivery. Bellevue Police Chief Warren Robinson said his department had no solid leads on the whereabouts of Danny Joe Eberle but said the boy's disappearance is being treated as a possible abduction. John Evans, assistant agent in charge of the Iowa-Nebraska FBI headquarters in Omaha, said the agency was treating the disappearance as a serious abduction. He said 20 FBI agents are assisting Bellevue Police and the Sarpy County Sheriff's Office in the search. Many of the agents, he added, are working outstate checking stops along highways. 3-pronged effort. Evans said the investigation has become a 3-pronged affair. Officers are retracing Danny's steps, visiting friends and acquaintances and following up telephone leads. Meanwhile, Bellevue's First National Bank established a reward fund for information leading to the safe return of the boys. The World-Herald has contributed $10,000 to the fund. Bellevue Mayor O. Baldwin has pledged an additional $1,000. The fund will be managed by Hap Engelkamp, Assistant Vice President of the bank. Robinson said Danny's disappearance has some similarities to the case of a West Des Moines, Iowa, newspaper carrier. He said he was referring to the case involving Johnny Gosch, 12, who was last seen about 6 a.m. September 5, 1962, delivering the Des Moines Sunday Register. Robinson said his department has scheduled no searches for Danny, who is described as 5'2", 100 pounds, blonde hair, blue eyes with a scar in his right cheek. We don't know where we would have to look, Robinson said. Considered reliable, he said Danny, the son of Mr. and Mrs. Leonard Eberle of 119 Valley View Drive, was wearing light blue corduroy pants, a light blue, denim long-sleeved shirt, and dark blue tennis shoes. Robinson said the youth is not a known runaway and is considered very reliable. The boy's father said his son left the house about 5 a.m. Ray Rowell, Danny's newspaper route supervisor, said he saw the boy briefly while dropping off newspapers for the carriers at the corner of Madison Street and Missouri Avenue about 5:30 a.m. The search for the youth began about 8:30 a.m. after Rowell received a phone call from a customer on Danny's route complaining that he had not received his newspaper. This was unusual, Rowell said, because the boy's job performance had been excellent. Rowell said he began checking immediately and found Danny's papers and bike in front of a residence a short distance from the pickup point. I made a tour of the area and couldn't find him, Raoul said. He said only 3 of the
fall of pheasant led 2 hunters to body of boy hidden in brush found his body. They were very shaken up. The body was in the thick copse of small trees about 75 yards from Cornhusker Road. Investigators Tuesday were exploring the possibility that the killer possibly had not meant for the body to be found this soon. Road little used. The roads in the Portal area are widely used by residents who know the area but are little used by the general public. Hawkins said the body might not have been found now if the pheasant hadn't dropped into the grove. An autopsy was being completed at Douglas County Hospital in Omaha Tuesday, officials said. As in the Eberle case, they declined comment about the physical state of the body or whether there had been sexual molestation. Sheriff Thomas was visibly shaken late Monday when he returned to the command post at Bellevue from the location where the body was found. "I've never witnessed anything similar to this," he said. "This person is sick, spineless, a coward. He should turn himself into a doctor, a minister, or me." Investigators at the scene were hampered by the cold temperature, the blowing snow, the darkness and the terrain. The scene was roped off Monday night and the investigators completed their search of it Tuesday morning after daylight. Portable light units from nearby cities were used at the scene Monday night. Hawkins said that a lightened line was run from the crime unit truck on the road to the scene 75 yards away and was used as a guide for officers to avoid despoiling the crime scene. Father and Offut officer. Walden, a career officer, who joined the Air Force in 1966 is stationed at Offut Air Force Base. He is a staff operations officer with Air Force Global Weather Central, a base spokesman said. Global Weather Central provides worldwide weather forecasts and other weather information to the Air Force and other Department of Defense agencies, said Captain Jack Hess of the Offut Information Office. The Waldens moved to Omaha from Hawaii within the past 6 months, but Hess would not say what their hometown is. While stationed at Offut, they will receive a wide range of support services from the Air Force, Hess said. Those services include assistance from coworkers, the base hospital staff, and the chaplain's office, he said. Chaplain Jerry Rice said 2 base chaplains have been in contact with the Walden family. Our responsibility. He said he didn't KNWO whether the Waldens are members of any Omaha area church, but said the Offut chaplains are available to assist in such crisis situations. We just feel that's part of our responsibility, Rice said. He said he understood that Walden's squadron commander went to the Walden home Tuesday morning to support the family and make arrangements for a possible memorial service. Principals told to call parents. Omaha School Superintendent Jack Taylor reminded school principals Monday to call parents the first day that a child is absent from classes. Taylor said principals could arrange to have parents call the school as well. Current practice is the district is to call home when a child is absent. Taylor said, but the district's written policies and procedures allow principals 3 days to make the contact. Taylor said each child should be accounted for on the first day when absent, whether through a call home by school officials or a call to school by the parents. The directions are in response to the disappearance of Christopher Paul Walden, 12. He left home for Pawnee School in Sarpy County Friday morning, but never arrived there. His mother was not called about his absence. The disappearance was not discovered until he did not return home from school Friday.
Fall of shot pheasant led 2 hunters to boy's body. The shooting of a pheasant Monday evening led to the discovery of the body of Christopher Walden, investigators said Tuesday. The partially clad body of the 12-year-old boy, who had been missing since he left home for school at 8:20 a.m. Friday, was found by hunters in a grove of wild plum trees off Cornhuskers Road near Giles Road. The location is near a community once known as Portal, west of Papillion and La Vista. Law enforcement officers would not discuss the condition of the body, when it was found or how it was clad. But one said it was just like the other one. That reference to the finding of the body of Danny Joe Eberle 13 on a remote road south of Bellevue on September 21. The Bellevue paperboy had been missing since September 1. The cause of death was multiple stab wounds. Sarpy County Sheriff Pat Thomas said Christopher also apparently died of multiple stab wounds. He added that he believes the cases are connected. Always a doubt. Bellevue Police Chief Warren Robinson, asked if he thought the same person had murdered both boys, said Tuesday there's always doubt, but as a human being, I think so. Working from a composite drawing provided by witnesses Saturday morning, officers were seeking a white male, 18 to 25 years old. He has a dark complexion, is 5'8" to 5'10" tall, and was wearing a dark stocking cap and wool plaid jacket when seen. The officers would not discuss the reported witnesses of the abduction other than to say it occurred Friday morning somewhere along the route Christopher normally took to school. Christopher, the only child of Air Force Lieutenant Col and Mrs. Stephen Walden, was walking the 12 blocks to Pawnee Elementary School when he vanished. He was a 6th grader at the school. FBI agent Chuck Wiley said the witnesses reported the incident Friday night after learning of Christopher's disappearance. The composite was drawn Saturday, he said. 3-day search. For 3 days a large team of investigators had scoured the hills of southern Sarpy County, Wiley said. Foul play was feared because of the witness report. About 5 p.m. Monday my fears were confirmed, according to Herb Hawkins, agent in charge of the FBI for Iowa and Nebraska. 2 young men were hunting near the Plum Grove along some railroad tracks east of Cornhusker Road. He did not identify them. They shot at a pheasant and it fell down on the Plum Grove. He said, they walked in to get the bird and
FBI agent says evidence points to lone killer. Authorities believe only one person was involved in the slaying of Christopher Paul Walden, a FBI agent said Wednesday. It probably was a single individual, said Chuck Wiley, one of 45 FBI agents aiding Sarpy County authorities in the investigation of the slayings of the young Walden, 12, and Danny Joe Eberle, 13, killed in September. It may also have been someone who doesn't have a record, he said. Since the Eberle killing, lawmen have been going over criminal records of the convicted sex offenders in eastern Nebraska and western Iowa. Young Walden, son of Air Force Lieutenant Col and Mrs. Stephen Walden, was last seen when he left for school about 8 a.m. Friday. His body with multiple stab wounds was found in a grove of trees near Cornhusker Road northwest of Papillion Monday night. Authorities said they believe that the same person killed both boys. A composite of a man who may have abducted young Walden has been distributed. Wiley said evidence found in the Plum Grove with the Walden boy supports the lone killer possibility. Also, he said when a reward is big enough, someone else is involved in a crime, he usually steps forward. So far, no one has inquired about the reward fund. $48,000 reward. The Eberle-Walden reward funds are being combined and total about $48,000. Young Eberle, a Bellevue newsboy, was last seen when he started his morning route on September 18. His body was found near a road south of Bellevue on September 21. He too died of multiple stab wounds. Wiley said the similarity of the fatal injuries led officers to believe the same person was involved. He said both victims were young white boys and similar evidence was found at each scene. He would not discuss the evidence. Sarpy County Sheriff Pat Thomas said earlier Wednesday that it is believed Walden, unlike Eberle, was killed in the Plum Grove, where his body was found. The Bellevue youth apparently was killed elsewhere, and his body was left at the roadside. Parked car. Young Walden apparently was taken by automobile to the Grove, on Cornhusker Road, a short distance south of its intersection with Giles Road. For that reason, Wiley said public help in finding a car that might have been parked there from Friday through Monday has been asked. He said the car possible was parked there at least 15 to 20 minutes. The site where the body was found is about 75 yards from the roadside, 30 yards into the Grove from the Roll Road tracks. Lawmen at the scene thought that the boy walked and was not carried or dragged from the road to the scene. Wiley also said there was a large amount of blood at the Walden scene. Little was found near Eberle boy's body, leading authorities to believe he was killed in another place. Sexual motivation. The leaders of the investigation, one of the largest in the region's history, have not commented on autopsy reports in either of the killings but have said there was sexual motivation. Wiley said the Walden autopsy was completed Wednesday. Many of the results were sent to Washington. The composite description of the suspect was supplied by witnesses who told police Friday night of an encounter between a boy resembling Christopher and a young man. The composite was drawn Saturday and released Monday night after the Walden boy's body was found. It was not released earlier, Thomas said, because investigators were working on the hope the boy was still alive and feared that if a sketch were published, the killer would be panicked into killing his victim. "We felt there was a very, very small chance that he could have escaped or been released," he said. 1,000 calls. According to Wiley, more than 1,000 calls have been received on the hotline established Monday night after the boy's body was found. 2 FBI agents with psychiatric training are expected to work on an emotional and behavioral picture of the suspect in the next few days, Wiley said. Lyle McKinney, a West Des Moines, Iowa detective, and Chuck Wood of the Iowa Department of Criminal Investigation, both of whom were involved in the search for newsboy Johnny Gosch in that state, conferred with local investigators again Wednesday. They also were here shortly after the Eberle slaying, but neither local case has been connected with Gosch's disappearance. The young newsboy disappeared while on his route the 12th of September 1982 and has not been seen since. The investigation into the slaying of 13-year-old Danny Joe Eberle spread into Omaha Thursday when police were called to a service station where a man had been seen discarding a knife with a 5-inch blade. The Omaha World-Herald newspaper carrier, who had been missing since he went to deliver papers Sunday morning, was found dead Wednesday morning in a weed-covered field south of Bellevue. He had been stabbed several times and his hands and feet were bound, authorities said. Law officials said during a news conference Thursday afternoon in Bellevue that they had no suspects in the slaying but were following numerous leads. They declined to elaborate but said the knife and items found near the body had been sent to FBI laboratories in Washington, D.C. for analysis. When asked how close law enforcement officials were to determining a specific suspect, Sarpy County Sheriff Pat Thomas said, "I'd rather not say right now." Thomas said about 30 law enforcement officials were assigned to the case. Among FBI agents working on the case are 2 behavioral analysts, a hypnotist and a psychotherapist. Thomas said 2 artists were putting together drawings of people described by witnesses who say they may have seen Eberle with someone. Law enforcement officials declined to describe the individual or possibly individuals reported seen with Eberle. Thomas said those sightings were Saturday, before his disappearance. Bellevue Police Chief Warren Robinson said tips from area residents have included sightings of a number of cars Sunday morning in the area in which the body was found. Officials said they had not determined when Eberle died. Thomas said he didn't know if Eberle had previously been associated with his assailant. Shortly before 9:15 a.m. Thursday, a delivery truck driver, Raymond Brown of Des Moines, Iowa, reported seeing a man in his late teens or early 20s throw the knife behind a trash can at the Vickers service station at 72nd and Pacific Streets. Station employees, including 18-year-old John Durachinsky and 22-year-old Steve Wright, found the knife and telephoned police. He said the knife had no bloodstains. The 2 described the man who has thrown the knife as about 5 foot 8 inches tall with blonde hair and wearing blue jeans, a black leather jacket, and gloves. They said the man, who had gone into the station's restroom, was carrying a white plastic shopping bag with red letters. Omaha police, who called for plainclothes officer from the Bellevue Police Department to examine the knife, searched the area for about an hour. Omaha police and the Bellevue officer declined comment. The knife has a yellow plastic handle and is the type used to fillet fish. Durachinsky said, "The blade appeared to have been sharpened many times and was about a quarter of its normal width," he said. The man crossed 72nd Street and stood on the median briefly before walking northward. Durachinsky said. He said the man showed no signs of being anxious or apprehensive. "We know the lad died of multiple stab wounds," Robinson said. But Robinson declined to say how many times the body, son of Mr. and Mrs. Leonard Eberle of Bellevue, had been stabbed or if there were any other marks on his body. Thomas said Eberle's body was partially clothed when found, but he said it had yet to be determined whether the boy had been sexually assaulted. Officials also said it is believed Eberle may have been taken to Iowa, because the body was found near a bridge crossing the Missouri River into Iowa. Robinson said that as a precaution, Bellevue police have been monitoring newspaper drop sites very carefully since the abduction.
Why do people judge me and want to hate me and abuse me and neglect me? Because I'm different and smarter than everyone else.